Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these mini stockings using Mosaic Crochet. This series on my blog is the Through the Window series because I feel like it's like looking out a window pane and the color is whatever you see out the window. I just absolutely love this stitch pattern. I worked a couple samples to get the fit just right, so here's a light gray and blue, white and red, and then this white and brown one is what I ultimately settled on, and I added a cute little hanger, and I absolutely love how this turned out. So you'll see me bouncing back from this one and this one in the video, but this shaping right here is how the video works up. And I finished with one round of crab stitch up here, or reverse single crochet. I love the finishing detail that it gives. It's completely optional. The hanger is sewn in later. It's completely optional. I still have some ends to weave in there. You can use these cute little stockings for so many things. They make great gift card holders. You can put treats in there. You can use them for an advent calendar. You can use them to hold utensils on the dining room table. You could put some little flowers in there to hang up. Lots of good ways to use them with and without the hanger. All my stockings were made with Red Heart Super Saver, which is a worsted weight number 4 yarn. This is white and buff. This is turquoise and I think light gray, and then white and cherry red. The main color uses a little bit more yarn, but for the coordinating color, it just uses a small amount. And together with this worsted weight yarn, you're going to need an H8 5mm crochet hook. This is my favorite hook to use. I custom ordered it from Sienna's Boutique on Etsy. I will link it in the description box below if you're interested. Gauge is not essential for this project. So if you wanted to use an I9 5.5mm hook with your worsted weight yarn, you could do that too. You could even go up to a chunky weight yarn and use a respective crochet hook and you would get a bigger stocking. You're going to find the written pattern for this linked in the description box below. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a slip knot, so I've pulled the yarn here over my fingers, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger. Pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the one on the left up over the other one and off my finger. Take my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand, short tail end in my left. We just pull this to normal tension and now we're ready to start our chain. We're going to start with a chain 4. To chain, we yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook, yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook, yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. We have 3 chains. We'll work one more, so we have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one of those V shapes is a chain. We're going to slip stitch join to that very first chain so we can form a ring. Insert your hook right into the center of that chain, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on your hook. That's a slip stitch join, and we're going to be joining each of our rounds. And now we have this ring in the center that we can work into. The stitch we just slip stitched to is going to have a hole there because the slip knot is not secured yet. You don't want to work your stitches into that top hole, you want to work into that center hole. We're going to work 8 single crochets into that center ring. I'm going to tighten this slip knot up first by holding in between my fingers and pulling the short tail end. It will close that hole up. I'm going to hold this tail end to the back of my chains as I work so I can crochet over it. So I'll insert my hook into that center hole of the ring, picking up the chains on my hook and the tail end. Yarn over, pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through both loops. That completes our first single crochet. Insert my hook into that center ring. I have the chains on my hook and the tail end. yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the center ring, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. We now have 1, 2, 3 single crochets. Each one of those V-shaped stitches on the end is a stitch. We want to have 8 in total, so I'm going to continue single crocheting into the center ring, holding my tail end against the back of the chains to crochet over it the entire time. There's my 8th single crochet. If you run out of space as you're working, you can hold the fabric on either side and then pull the stitches down on the right. They will slide down that chain and it'll give you extra room to work into. We're going to go to the very first single crochet and slip stitch join. So if you're not sure where the first single crochet is, the best thing is to work backwards from where you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Insert your hook under both loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop that's on your hook, and we've just slip stitch joined the round. In a couple rounds, we're going to go ahead and secure this initial tail end, as it's the easiest to get to here near the beginning. So it has a hole in the center, you can just leave it for now. We're going to go into round 2. For round 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to increase. That means work multiple stitches into each stitch so that this circle will get larger and lay flat. So for this round, we're going to be working 2 stitches into each stitch. I'm going to show you how I like to work to split my first increase, which helps keep my seam straight. You can increase in whatever manner you're most comfortable with. So typically we work 2 stitches into the first stitch, 2 stitches into the next stitch. Here, splitting my increases, I'm going to work 1 stitch into that first stitch, 2 stitches into the next, and continue around. And when I get back to the end, I'm going to work another single crochet into that very first stitch to complete my first increase. 1 stitch is going to be here to the left of the beginning chain, and 1 stitch is going to be here to the right of the beginning chain. So I'm going to start with a single crochet into that very first stitch that my chain is coming out of, insert my hook right into that stitch, picking up both loops of that V shape, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through both loops to complete my single crochet. Then I'm going to work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So here's the first one. The second one is worked right back into the same exact stitch. So we have 2 single crochets there worked into that same stitch. And we'll continue working 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around until we're back to the beginning. When you complete your last set of increases over here, you're going to have 15 single crochets. Then we'll work the last one there and slip stitch join. There's my last set of increases. I have 1 more stitch left here to complete this as a 16 stitch round. So we're going to insert our hook into that very next stitch and complete a single crochet. And this is going to complete the very first increase where I worked just 1 stitch here in this first stitch. Then I'll slip stitch join. And now round 2 is complete. And we have 16 single crochets. For round 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to increase 1 more time. So typically here you would work 2 stitches in the first, 1 stitch in the next, 2 stitches, then 1. But because I'm going to split this beginning increase, I'm going to work 1 single crochet into this very first stitch and 1 single crochet into the very next stitch. Then I'll begin my repeat with 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And I'm going to continue in this pattern all the way around. When I get to the end over here, I'm going to have 23 stitches when I finish my last increase. Then we'll work 1 stitch into the next and slip stitch join around. And there's the end of my last increase. I have 1 more stitch left here to work in the first stitch. So I'll go ahead and complete that single crochet. That's the stitch just to the right of the beginning chain. Now my first set of increases is finished with 2 stitches, and I have 24 stitches for the round. I'm going to slip stitch join to the very first single crochet. And now round 3 is complete. This is as large as we want our stocking to be. So if you set this down and you take a soft tape measure and you measure straight across the center of the circle here, which is the diameter of the circle, ours is going to measure 2¼ inches wide. Gauge is not essential for this project, so if you're not matching up to mine and you don't mind if the finished size comes out a little smaller or a little bit larger, then you can just continue working. But if the finished size matters to you and you're measuring larger, you're going to want to go to a smaller crochet hook size and rework these 3 rounds. And if you're measuring smaller than this, then you'll want to go up a crochet hook size and rework these 3 rounds. Alright, let's continue. We'll have 1 more round and then we'll switch colors. Round 4 is going to be chain 1 and turn. And we're going to single crochet into the very first stitch and each stitch all the way around. And when you get to the end of this round, you're going to have 24 single crochets. There's my last single crochet. I'm going to slip stitch join the round. You can see that our circle is no longer flat. It's starting to take a bowl shape. That's exactly what we want. We're going to pull in our new color in just a moment, but I'm going to pull up a loop here so that I can go ahead and weave in this initial tail end. So I'll thread it into my tapestry needle. It's the easiest to weave in here after a few rounds versus later on when you have a small little stocking and you're trying to maneuver in a small space. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work around clockwise back to the beginning. Then we're going to push through a couple more stitches. So I'll just work under a couple stitches at a time. And this gets me back to the beginning. I'm going to push through a couple more stitches, and when I exit, I'm going to break that last stitch in half instead of coming out from underneath it completely. And by breaking your stitches is going to help capture your yarn better. Now I'm going to hold in between my middle finger and my thumb that center ring, and I'm going to pull this tail end. It's going to close up that hole. Don't pull too tight because depending on your fabric, you can rip it as you're pulling. So you just want to pull it tight enough to close that hole up. And now we'll rotate it so we can work back to secure it closed. I work all my ends the same way. Instead of picking the whole stitch up, I always break it in half when I enter and when I exit. So I'm inserting into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half. I'm going to run it up vertically here, breaking the last stitch in half as I exit. Pull through, give it a tug, and then rotate. I like to work 3 passes, so I'm doing one more here, inserting into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, running it up through several of the stitches I just finished, and breaking my last stitch in half as I exit. Give it a tug, manipulate the fabric if you need to, if it's bunched up at all, and then I can fasten that off. And now I'm ready to continue with my stocking. I'm going to be carrying the yarn up inside, so I'm not going to fasten off this tail. I'm going to grab my new color, which is going to be this blue color. Form a loop, leaving a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. Put that loop onto my hook and pull it through. Then take the gray tail end, or the initial color that you're using, and pull it down. This loop is going to disappear. Then drop the blue tail, tighten down the blue loop on the hook, chain 1, and turn. This is the way that I like to change colors. I think it makes for a very seamless color change. You can change colors whatever way you're most comfortable with. I am going to be showing this method throughout the whole project. As you work, that gray loop or the original color might pop up because it's not secured yet. You can just hold the fabric, grab the strand, tighten it back down, and it'll disappear. We're going to start by working a single crochet into that second stitch, not the stitch your chain is coming out of, but the next stitch after that, single crochet. If your initial chain here looks a little wonky, you can grab the tail end and give it a tug and it will smooth that out so it looks even. Then we're going to chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, and here's where our repeat begins. Single crochet into the next stitch and into the stitch after that. Chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, then the repeat again, single crochet into the next stitch and the stitch after that, chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches. Continue around, single crochet into the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next 2, all the way until you're back to the beginning, and once you get here you're going to have 3 stitches left unworked. And now I'm back to the beginning here. I have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. I'm going to skip each of those next 2 and I'm going to single crochet into that last stitch. Then I'm going to tighten this gray down in case it's come loose, pull it up and over to the inside, and now slip stitch join to the very first single crochet of the round. And now that completes it with 2 stitches here. And round 5 is complete. For round 6, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to single crochet into that very first single crochet there, which looks like the second stitch. Then chain 2, skip the chain space, single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets, chain 2, skip the next chain space, single crochet into each of those next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next chain space. Continue all the way around until you get back to the beginning here, where you're going to skip this last chain space, have a chain 2 over it, and then we'll work one more stitch. Now I have the last chain 2, skip that chain space, single crochet into the very last single crochet. Now I have 2 single crochets there in the beginning, and I can slip stitch join. Now I'm not going to chain, I'm just going to turn my work. I'm going to hold the tension of my loop here with my right hand as I drop this blue tail, go down to the bottom, pick up the gray, give it a tug if you need to if it's come loose. Then I'm holding the tension here as well as on the back. I'm holding tension on the blue tail. Yarn over with the gray, pull through the loop, pull on that blue tail end so this loop will disappear. Then I'm still holding tension on the tail end here on the back. Pull down on the gray so that goes to normal tension. Chain 1, and now I'm ready to go with the next round in my gray color, or my initial color that I started with. For row 7, we're going to single crochet into that second stitch, and now for this chain space here, we're going to work double crochets into these 2 single crochet stitches that we skipped 2 rows down. I'm going to start by yarning over. I'm going to push those chains to the back because I don't want to crochet over them. I want them to be on the back of my fabric. So push those to the back so that you can get to those 2 skip stitches. Insert your hook into the very first one. As you can see, my hook is just inserted into the stitch alone and the chains are separate. Then yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we'll double crochet into this next single crochet there. Yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, just the stitch alone. The chains are still separate. Then yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we're going to bring the fabric back up so that the double crochets are now laying on top of the chains, and into those next 2 single crochets there we're going to single crochet. And I'm going to pull up a loop here really quick. As you single crochet into that, it secures the fabric together. So you can see here that they're still separate there in the middle, but they're secured together by the single crochets on either side. And now you have a little blue box popping through there. Now we're back to the double crochets here. Push the chains to the back, yarn over, insert your hook into that first skip stitch. Just the stitch alone, chains are separate. Yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Double crochet into the next skip stitch, leaving the chains there on the back, and complete a double crochet. Then pull the fabric back up, single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets. And that's it. That's how we're going to continue working all the way around. Double crochet into each of those next 2 skip stitches from 2 rows down. Single crochet into each of those next 2 stitches. Double crochet into each of the skip stitches from 2 rows down. single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets. Continue until you're back to the beginning. I've worked the last set of double crochets. I have 1 single crochet left to work there to complete that first set. Single crochet right in there. Tighten that blue up, pull it to the back, and slip stitch join to the first single crochet. And now round 7 is complete, and we have blue boxes in between the 2 gray double crochets all the way around. For round 8, we're going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet into that first single crochet, single crochet into each of the double crochet stitches, single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets, and continue working all the way around, single crocheting into each stitch. And there's my last stitch of the round. I have 24 single crochets here. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch join to the very first stitch. Do not chain, turn my work, and now we're going to switch back to the blue color. So I'm going to hold the tension of the loop here with my right hand, drop the gray, go to the back, pick up the blue, tighten it if I need to if it's come loose. Continue to hold the tension of the gray tail on the back. Yarn over with the blue, pull it through the loop, pull on the gray strand so that that loop disappears, and then I pull down the blue, chain 1, and I'm ready to go. Round 5, where we started with the blue down here, that's the first round of our repeat. 5, 6, 7, and 8 is the round of single crochets we just finished. We're going to work those 4 rounds again. Next step is going to be to work the heel. So I'm going to pull up a loop here really quick so I don't lose this stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and weave in the blue tails that I have here. I'm going to turn this to the inside out. It will be easier to work that way. I'm going to weave this in vertically here to the left. So I'm going to start by inserting underneath this blue stitch here to the left, and then I'm going to swing around to insert into that stitch just above it. And I'm going to do my ends all the same way, 3 passes, breaking the stitch in half as I enter and as I exit. So I'm inserting in the stitch right above it, and then I'll run under a couple stitches here. Hold the fabric, give it a tug as I pull through. Use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to in case it has bunched up here. Then work into a nearby stitch, and in this case I'm going to pick up this gray, and that's okay because we're just working through this top layer, so you're not going to see it from the other side. And I'll run it back through several of the stitches that I just worked. Breaking that last stitch in half as I exit. Give it a tug, manipulate the fabric if I need to, and now I'm going to work one more pass here, inserting into a nearby stitch, running up through several stitches, break the last stitch in half as I exit, and I've picked a gray stitch here as well. If you're worried about it showing from the right side, you can just turn to the right side of your fabric. If you can see your needle, then you're going to see that strand. But if you can't see your needle, then that strand is going to stay on the wrong side. And as you work, sometimes it's tough on your fingers to pull the needle through. So put the eye of the needle flat so that it's facing you and you can see down. Grab some jewelry pliers. Use the flat part of it to grab your needle. Hold on to your fabric and then pull it through. And don't pull too tight, as you can break the eye of your needle this way. But this is a great way to save your fingers. Give it a tug, manipulate the fabric, and now I'm ready to fasten this off. I'm also going to fasten off the blue up here because it's going to be a couple stitches of working the heel before I get back to this stitch pattern. So I'm just leaving a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. And then I'm going to turn this back to the right side facing, insert my hook back into that stitch and pull it down to normal tension. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to insert my hook into this next stitch and work a single crochet, and single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches as well. So we have 3 single crochets. Then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to single crochet into that first stitch and each of the next 2 stitches. Then I'm going to single crochet into this very next stitch, which is where our slip stitch join was done. So the very next stitch you can see on row 12, insert your hook there and complete a single crochet, and then insert your hook into the next stitch and work a slip stitch. Then chain 1 and turn. For row 3, we're going to skip that slip stitch, single crochet into the next stitch and into the next 3 stitches, so we'll have 4 single crochets. Then we're going to come down here where we worked the last single crochet of row 1, and we're going to work a single crochet in that same exact stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Then we'll chain 1 and turn. We're going to skip this slip stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, and into the next 4 stitches. So there's going to be 5 single crochets in total here. Then we're going to come down here where we worked a slip stitch for row 2, and we're going to work a single crochet in there. Then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 1 and turn. Skip the slip stitch, single crochet into the next 6 stitches. Come down here where we worked our last stitch and single crochet in there, slip stitch into the next stitch. We have 1 more row worked like this, so chain 1 and turn, single crochet into the very first 7 single crochets. Then we're going to come down here where we worked our last stitch, work a single crochet, and slip stitch into the next stitch. Now we have 24 stitches here. We have the slip stitch that we just worked. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So now we can work our pattern evenly, and we're going to create our color blocks on top of the existing color blocks. That way everything lines up. So I'm going to turn this and set it down. I'm going to go back to that blue ball that I was working from. Form a loop here, leaving a tail end long enough to comfortably weave in. Put this loop onto my hook. Pull it through the loop. Pull down on the gray so that loop disappears. Pull the gray in, drop the blue tail to the back here. And then chain one with the blue. You're going to see me working the rest of the stocking in this white and brown combination. After finishing the gray and blue one, I changed some of the shaping up, so I worked up another sample. You may see me bounce from this one back to the gray and blue one once the instructions even back out. Our first stitch here is going to be down where our white tail is currently coming out of. So there's the slip stitch right underneath my loop. Right underneath that is where we're going to insert our hook and then complete our single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2, chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches and single crochet into the last 2 of the heel. Then I'll chain 2, we'll skip the next 2 stitches which are going to fall above the double crochets, and single crochet into the next 2. And we'll chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches that fall above those double crochets, and in the next 2 stitches we're going to single crochet 2 together. Insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 2 loops on your hook. We're going to leave those on there. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. This decrease is going to help with the shaping of the stocking, and we'll add back onto it a little bit later. We're going to chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, chain 2, we're back to the beginning, we have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. We're going to skip each of the next 2, and we're going to work another decrease here. That's going to be over the last stitch and the very first stitch. And I like to do this here, otherwise it creates a little gap here in between these 2 stitches for this round. So we'll skip those next 2, insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on our hook, leave those there, insert your hook into the next stitch, which is the same stitch as the first one. Our white tail is coming out of there, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Pull the white in to the wrong side and slip stitch join. And now round 1 of the body is complete. For round 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet into the first stitch, chain 2, single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets, chain 2. This is where we have just the 1 single crochet that we decreased there. So when you skip these next 2 stitches, you're just going to have 1 single crochet to work into. So single crochet in there, then chain 2, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and continue as normal for the remainder of this round. here I am back to the beginning. I single crocheted in my last stitch and I'm going to slip stitch join. Turn my work, pick up the white and drop the current color, chain 1. For round 3, we're going to single crochet into that very first stitch, double crochet into each of those single crochets from 2 rows down. That's going to be the stitches from the heel. And I'll single crochet into each of those next 2 stitches, double crochet into each of those next 2 stitches from 2 rows below. Those are also worked on the heel. Then single crochet into each of those next 2 stitches, double crochet into each of those single crochets from 2 rows below, that is right at the end of the heel. And you see that it blends in nicely with the heel there. Single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, double crochet from 2 rows below. And here we've reached the 1 stitch. We're just going to work 1 single crochet into that stitch and finish out the rest of this in pattern. Here's my last double crochet, single crochet into the last stitch, pull that brown in, slip stitch join to the first stitch, and round 3 is complete. For round 4, we're going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet into the very first stitch, and each stitch all the way around. There's my last single crochet right here, slip stitch join, turn, pull that brown color or the color you're using for your boxes up, pull down the white, and chain 1. In round 5, we're going to increase this 1 stitch back to 2. So we're going to start here with 1 single crochet into the first stitch, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet into the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet into the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet into the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, and then we've reached that 1 stitch. So in this next single crochet, we're going to work 2 single crochets. That way it increases from 1 back to 2, and then finish out the round in pattern. And now when I work this next round, chain 1, turn, single crochet in that first stitch, chain 2, single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets, chain 2. I have 2 stitches to work in here now. And then we'll continue working the rest of the round in pattern. After we slip stitch join, we'll switch to our other color, chain 1 and turn, work one of the rounds where you have the double crochets coming down, and then chain 1 and turn and work another round of single crochet. That's going to complete the second section here after the heel. That'll be 1, 2 color blocks. Then begin a third color block, rounds 1, 2, and 3, ending where the double crochets come down. And then I'll be back with you so we can work another round of single crochet together, but we're going to slightly modify it so that we can add a hanger in this last round of the repeat. So go ahead and work up through round 11 and I'll be back with you for round 12. I've made it to the end of round 11 and I'm going to go ahead and fasten off this brown color because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to insert my hook here, bring that brown to the back, and slip stitch join. I've come to the end of round 11 and I was going to modify it to work into the back loop only to leave some loops here along the back of the stocking, but I could not get the hanger to work out the way that I wanted to, so I'm just going to work it separately and then sew it on so that I have more security. So for round 12 I'm just going to chain 1, turn, and single crochet all the way around. I am going to finish with 1 round of reverse single crochet, so I'm going to pop in a clip from the gray and blue stocking to finish this off, and then I'll be back to show you how to add a hanger, which is completely optional. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. You don't have to crab stitch here. You can end your stocking now. You can work regular single crochets around, but I thought the crab stitch would be a fun little ending here. So you're still going to have 24 stitches in this round. Normally we work to the left and then work clockwise here. We're actually going to be starting to the right and work counterclockwise. We're going to be working the stitch the same way. So a single crochet is insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We're still going to do the stitch that way. We're just going to lean the other way. So I'm going to hold the tension of the loop on my hook with my finger. I'm going to insert my hook backwards into that last single crochet, yarn over and pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. The original loop is still on the right side. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through both loops. Then I'm going to hold the tension of the loop on my hook. I'm going to lean over to the right, insert my hook into that next stitch, which is above a double crochet, yarn over and pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook and my original loop is still on the right side. Yarn over and pull through both loops. Hold the tension on my hook, lean over to the right, insert into that very next single crochet, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. And I like to hold it as I lean over so that my stitches come out more even. And as I pull through, I make sure to bring my hook around. As I'm pulling through, I pull it around that previous stitch because it is very easy to work on top of the stitches that you've previously done, and then the stitches just look bunched up and bulky. Hold my loops, lean to the right, insert into that next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through both loops. And this just gives a really fun finish. I'm going to go ahead and continue working all the way around. And now I've made it back to the beginning. Instead of slip stitching the round, I like to just finish here, fasten off my yarn, pull up on this loop here to break it. Then I'll thread that into my tapestry needle. So we have 2 ends left here. I'm going to do the blue one first. And I am going to do it the same way as I have been doing all my ends. And then I'm going to insert into the top of the very first reverse single crochet that I made, and I'm going to go from the wrong side through to the last one that I made. And now I'm ready to weave this in on the wrong side. I'm going to start with a slip knot here, wrapping the yarn around my finger 2 times, holding the tension here with my thumb and middle finger. Pull the loop on the left over the other one but not off my finger. Pull the loop on the left now over the other one and off my finger. Put my hook into this loop, pull it off, hold the working yarn in my right hand, short tail in my left, pull that to normal tension. I'm going to work a chain of 11, so we're going to yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. There's 1, yarn over, pull through, 2 chains, yarn over, pull through, 3 chains. I'm going to continue so I have 11 chains. Now we're going to single crochet into the second chain, so we don't count the loop on our hook. Skip this first one, and in that second one I'm going to insert my hook right in the center, then yarn over, pull through. I have the 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. And I'm going to continue single crocheting into each stitch all the way down the chain. And now that I've reached the beginning, I'm just going to hold this first stitch, pull on that tail end, it'll close that hole up, and I'm going to fasten off with a slightly longer tail so I can use this to sew in. Before I fasten it off, check to make sure it's going to be as long as you want. You're just going to put it on the back there, along the back seam where the heel is there. So it's going to be there on either side of that imaginary seam along the back. I'm just going to pin it right now with my fingers and make sure that it's in the position that I want for this stocking. Looks good to me. And make sure it's big enough. If you wanted to have more space in here, you can work more chains. The more chains you work, the more stitches you're going to have, and the bigger this is going to be. So 10 single crochets looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off here with this long tail. And not super long, just long enough where you can sew it onto your stocking. I'm going to pull up on that loop to break it. Then I'll grab my tapestry needle. I've threaded the initial tail into my tapestry needle. I'm going to the wrong side or the back side of it. And I'm just going to weave it in here, working vertically along some of these stitches. It's important after you pull through the first time that you come back and make sure your fabric is not bunched up, that it is laying naturally. Rotate this. I always break my stitches in half when I enter and exit. And 2 passes is good for me here. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. Now I'm going to thread this other end into my tapestry needle. Going back to my stocking, I still have some ends to weave in, but I'll do those eventually. So I flattened the stocking so I have the heel here on the right side and it's laying evenly. Then I'm going to pop it open a little bit. I know that right here is the crease that I just made, so I'm going to set this down just to the left of that crease, lining up the white with the bottom of the white stitches there. And I'm going to check it one more time, lining up the other edge of the white side along the same edge of the rows there. Pinch it with my fingers just to make sure that I'm happy with it. And I am. I'm going to go ahead and hold it with my fingers, but you could use sewing pins if you want. And I'm going to do a whip stitch, but I'm just going to work through this top layer. So when I insert my needle into these 2 stitches here from the inside of the stocking, you cannot see them from the back side. So you're not going to see my thread popping through from the other side. If you could see your needle, then you're going to see your stitches. And then I'm going to insert it into the bottom part here of the hanger where my tail end is coming out of. And pull through. And then I'll just continue on down the line, picking up the next stitch from just this inside layer, not showing through from the right side. And I'll grab the next stitch along the bottom edge of my hanger and pull through. And I'll come back here to the inside of the stocking, go into the next stitch, and I'm just going to continue whip stitching all the way down. Then I'll put this other side flat here. And I'm going to whip stitch it along the same row. And as long as you follow the same row for all of it, then your hanger will be on there evenly. So I'm just here on the white stitches just above where the brown color is. And now I've worked all the way across. Before I continue, fold this in half, check it again. Looks good. And I'll come back in here and I'm going to pass again through each stitch all the way to the beginning where I started, just for extra security. Let me look at it from this right side here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just weave it into the bulkiness of the seam that I created. And now I'm going to fasten off. There's my adorable little stocking. I'm so happy with it. I have done 3 samples of this, trying to get the shaping and everything just the way that I wanted. There's the first one that I started, the second one, and now I have this third one, and I think this one is my favorite. And of course, the hanger here is optional, so if you don't want to add it, you don't have to. This one right here doesn't have a hanger, and it's super cute just the way it is. It would also depend how you're going to use your mini stockings. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Drop me a comment below. Let me know what you're going to be using your stocking for and what colors you're going to pick. You'll find the written pattern for this in the description box below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.